Barry's sitting on the other side. Well,
It's cold.
yeah.
I was cold over there too.
Oh,
No, I'm good. I still got
okay.
That could be right. I didn't know. Maybe it does. I think it does.
Good evening. Welcome to the Eastline Board of Finance special meeting. Today is Monday, April 28th. It is 10:39. We would like to call this special meeting to order and begin with deliberations and action to send the proposed fiscal year 2025-2026 budget town meeting on May 22nd, 2025. We normally start with the Pledge of Allegiance, but we kind of did that already, so skip that part. So, where do we begin? I think that we had a lot of comments. I think I'm very much of the mindset that East Lyme does a great job with their school system. So I applaud everybody that is involved with that. That being said, we have a tough job in front of us. As while everyone that spoke are people that are in support, a lot of people that may think that it's too high are not here tonight. But we also did emails from those people that were also worried about the tax increase. So, it's it can be a little overwhelming when so many people in the room that are so adamant, but we're still back in the position of it's our job to come up with a fiscally responsible budget. So, I think I would like to open it up to any comments from the fellow board members. Anyone have any, anything that they want to share?
I guess, this is my first season on the budget. I keep reminding myself that the next ones have got to be easier. But I couldn't help but be inspired by all of the comments that were tonight, and by I think the breadth of the people from the education community that came out, and the breadth of the different reasons that they gave us to try and find ways to restore the budget. I guess not a lot of it compelling, and my inclination is to try and find a compromise that will achieve some of the goals that a lot of the education community presented to us tonight. And I think for me, some of the objections that I might have had to those arguments were that, you know, the taxpayers in town who don't have kids in school will be suffering potentially by a large mill rate increase. The argument we heard a couple of times tonight that I thought compelling was that you know, it does enhance our community to have a strong educational system. So I would love to hear from the other board members tonight, but I would be compelled to try and find a compromise.
Tonight, Mr. Holland's just flashed through my mind. And for those of you too young to know about that movie, it was about the elimination of a music department, a music teacher that was very loved by his community. I, like Scott, was moved by many of the comments that were made tonight. We are in difficult times, and I can't see a restoration of the entire 1.35 million that was cut. But I believe some of the funding should be reinstated. I believe Mrs. Dombrowski had suggested 750,000, meet in the middle. I don't know if that's a proper figure or not. I believe last year it was a $675,000 reduction or somewhere around there.
650.
650, okay. You know, you can do a calculation of what your increase in budget was and get to a figure higher than the 650, but it seemed like you could live without devastating impact to the staff and the programming last year. I would hope that that would be possible this year. I don't want to see impact to staff. I believe what Lucy had mentioned about real data is a very real experience that we are going through. Some of the numbers we get from either side don't always make sense. And I think that we need to be more communicative with each other throughout the year to try to resolve some of this fuzziness that both sides have. And there were some comments regarding mutual exclusivity of the schools in the town. And I was hearing some people in town mention, oh, well, The town is getting, this department's getting this for miscellaneous, this department's getting this for overtime. This department's getting a boat, we're getting a firefighter. We're one community and we need to work that way, and the schools are a vital part of the community. So if there isn't going to be a drastic impact on the schools, I would say somewhere like last year's reduction, 650. But I also would like to have us have more communication throughout the year than what's been the recent history.
I tend to agree with Rich. I know I voted no against the cut initially, and probably in reflection could have made my vote clearer. I am against a significant cut to the Board of Ed. I feel like it will significantly impact the quality of education in our town, and I think sentiment showed tonight. Education is synonymous with East Lyme, and I am willing to compromise, but I am against a large cut.
Well, I'd just like to clarify one thing in the beginning, because I heard it many times tonight. They keep saying that we, the Board of Finance, are cutting staff or teachers. We are not cutting anything. We are just reducing the amount of the $4 million that was requested by the Board of Ed to $2.5 million, give or take. We don't decide where any cuts are. We give you a number, and then the Board of Ed and the superintendent decide where the cuts are made. If they decide to cut staff, that's not on the Board of Finance. So I've heard a number of times. Just wanted to make that clear. The other thing, a lot of families in the town that are connected or have children in the school system are like around 25%, maybe a little. People over 50 years old in town make up 40+% in the town. So a lot of these people are retired. They moved here for whatever reason. Could have been because of the school system. Could be because of downtown, the boardwalk, whatever. But everybody that spoke tonight was advocating for the 25%. I'd like to advocate for the 75%, whatever that number is. Because a lot of people that I got messages from were retired and wanted to stay in their homes in East Lyme. And if you have, depending on how the budget turns out on the Board of Ed side, if you have an assessment home of $350, $350,000, your taxes could go up over $1,000 if the budget is not reduced. And even if it is reduced, it's still going to go up for that price. Assessed house over $600. Now, a lot of people in town can afford that, but a lot of people can't. And they're worried about what they're going to do. They can't afford money for food, for electricity, for a mortgage, rent, whatever. So I just wanted to put that out. As far as what I feel about the reduction of the $4 million, it's a tough call. I mean, we spent a lot of hours going line by line on the town side. And we went line by line looking at different things, but we thought may be excessive as far as materials, administrators, teachers. There was a plethora of different items that we thought may or may not be able to reduce. So right now, I'm on the fence. I don't really know. I'll have to take my direction from some of the other board members on their comments. It's what they think is a realistic view of what the budget should be on the Board of Ed side.
Heard a lot of compelling arguments tonight from everybody, and I'm inclined to maybe find a compromise where we can give something back, and just hoping that there's a way that the Board of Ed can use hopefully there's some other ways we could save some money to keep the staff that is so critical. Public benefit charges going away. Hopefully, maybe that's some way to save it, or something will come up. But a lot of good points were made up tonight, so I'm agree I could find a compromise. Not reducing down to 0.
Well, again, just sort of reflecting on some of the comments. I grew up in a family of 5, and when I was young, we lived in a town that didn't have a good school system. And we moved to West Hartford specifically for the school system. So those comments were resonating with me a lot, because there was no way the oldest ended up going to private school because the school systems were so bad. But Dad being a teacher and Mom a nurse, they couldn't afford to send 5 kids to private school. My dad was a teacher. He taught until he was in his 80s. He retired, but they called him back every day to be a substitute. He was on peritoneal dialysis. So every night he was hooked up to a machine. He would get off that machine and they called him in to substitute. His students routinely came back to my father and said, "Do you perform my marriage?" When I first ran for office, I got a random donation from someone, I didn't know at all, but he had a note and said, "I was going down the wrong path, and your father straightened me out, and I'm now a successful businessman, and I want to donate to your campaign." So what I always say is teachers have an unbelievable ability to have an impact on their students' lives. And I do respect that. People thought a comment of mine was, random. It's just so hard to balance everything. And if someone took offense, I apologize, but it's just trying to come together to find that spot where people who can't afford, who are, calling us up and emailing us. And so I'm trying to put both of those things together. I actually have a teacher here in the school who came up to me and said, "I'm a teacher today because of your father." So I feel like that's even impacting these line too. So, yeah, let's find a compromise. And I know that it's not my argument at all that if you don't have kids in the school system, you're going to vote against it. I don't look at it that way. We know our property values are affected by it, and that's key. There's a part of me that also is thinking about what the town will be going through next year when it comes to reassessment every 5 years. The town has to reassess all the properties, and theoretically, if nothing changed with the budget, someone's home value went up, hopefully our mill rate would go down, so it would be an automatic. But what tends to happen is that there can be a shift. The last assessment, we saw a lot of shift away from commercial to residential. And that, I think, has even been exacerbated even more as COVID drove more and more people from, New York and wherever to buy up whatever house they could, especially around the shore. So there's still a lot of, modest homes around in the shoreline communities, but their values are going way up. And that's what we heard a lot from after the last assessment. So, I keep that in the back of my mind too, that while right now, it looks like, oh, it could only be, $500, that's nothing. But that could drastically change for a lot of people to do. So just throwing it out there. Yeah, I also want to point out, we didn't elaborate it in there. Over there, wherever we were, we really did go through all the town budgets, and we looked at things that could be cut there, and it did include not filling positions. There's 2 police officers that, Dan, right, you cut out of that budget before it even came to us. So when we look and say, geez, the town operations went up a lot too, I think there is for a lot of years, there was times when the town budget didn't move much at all. And I found that when I got here, I was like, wow, we don't have like a real IT department. We had the police chief and the public works director spending their time as the IT department. And given how complicated the world has gotten with all of different everything, the way we're all connected everywhere and cyber fraud, everything else, it was really important for us to invest in building out the IT department. Building out the fire department too, that's, that's not just for the town, the town budget. This is for everyone here. Public safety is a really important thing. So, so that is needed to be built out a little so that we can be sure that we're providing good safety to everyone. As I said before, debt service, there's nothing we can do about it because we can't default on our bonds. So there's nothing we can cut there. If we were to restore some of the Board of Ed money that had been reduced, I don't know whether we can sacrifice the addition to our cash capital. That's going to end up having an impact down the road because we'll end up having to bond for it and pay for cash. The only way to stop increases in everyone's taxes is if our grand list grew at a pace that would make up for it. Problem with that is we are hindered by our capacity in the water and sewer department. So if you wanted to build more in different places, if we can't provide the water and sewer capacity, then we can't continue to grow the grand list without that. So that's another lever that we can't push. So I don't know, maybe Kevin. Did you want to?
That's true. I had a specific question for Kevin. I was gonna make a motion.
Okay.
I think, I'm proud of the work we did. In all of those meetings, in all of those hours, in all of those uncomfortable chairs, to work through the town budget. And while not everyone in the audience who spoke tonight saw how we went through line by line with the town budget, I'm confident and feel good. And I think we have integrity in maintaining the numbers we voted on for the town budget. I would like to make a motion that we restore some of the cut that we voted on to the Board of Education budget. I think it's interesting, we're seeing in, I was looking up at the motto behind us, you know, about contributing, citizen, responsible, independent, critical thinking, and in that spirit, I think we, of course, can learn from that too. So I don't know what the exact right number is, but I'm going to throw a number out there. I believe there's 1.5 million that we originally voted to cut is now down to 1.35 because of. And if we split that in half, it's 675,000. So my motion is to restore 675,000 to the budget.
Is there a second? So, motion has been made and seconded. Maybe, Kevin, could you take a look at what that would do to the budget?
So that would make the cut for the Board of Ed 825,000 inclusive of the $150,000 health insurance reduction. That would bring our mill rate up to 1.79 increase, 28.14, 6.8%. And
6.8% increase.
1.79 mil. And there was 8.5 positions reduced on the town side budget. No, it was only the full-time firemen we added. There's about 10 requests.
The percentage against
6.8.
So Kevin, those 10 requests, were those for new positions or were for those existing positions?
A new admin in the OC, a new park and rec maintainer, so we did half of that. An additional fourth person in IT that was cut, an additional, well, there was additionally 5 firemen, we cut it back to 1.5, then we cut it to 1. A full-time case manager for the senior center, 2 additional police officers, the filling of an engineer position in Public Works, and we actually eliminated the 23rd person in Public Works.
My motion had nothing to do with changing any of the other town budget items that we have already voted on. Just
So I think, just part of this is, you know, the discussion, and I think there were a number of comments about how the town wasn't sharing in any of the pain. And I think we were very diligent as we went through really reducing every single department, unless the only thing that was in the department was a salary, was contractual, but so it was a very we actually I went to the acting police chief, went to the head of Public Works, went to the head of the fire marshal, and I said to them all, I need something. You know your budgets better than I do. Can you please come back in some way that you can reduce your budgets? And all 3 of them did. So it was definitely a shared pain across the town and the Board of Ed. I just, for discussion purposes here too, Jeff, could you just, there is also a lot of talk that, you know, 10 people were going to lose their jobs. This was going to happen. This, could you just clarify exactly what you're thinking at this point would happen, just to make sure we're all on the same?
Yeah, the hard part in all that is it's a shell game because it can change too. Like for instance, this last week, we had a teacher that's out on maternity leave notify us that she's decided not to come back next year. So that opens up, that helps with somebody else not losing a position. So I mean, that could happen. Somebody could move to another state with the number of staff that we have, the total number of staff, there are fluctuations that occur. We're trying everything we can and looking at all the different scenarios, obviously make sure there's a slot for everybody to have a job at the end of the year. So right now, we say, 10 certified staffing positions, there's 3 to 4 at the lowest number that still would not have a position at the end of the day. Yeah, that's today. It could change next week. It could go up, it could go down, sort of thing. So we just look at everything. Dual certifications. We've got another certified staff member that's a teacher right now at the middle school, might take a multi-language position because that individual is just got her certification in that. So she's willing to maybe move over. That would open up an English position, which would save another person. So we're just trying to work through all those scenarios.
So
That helps.
potentially 3 to 4 people.
Yeah, as of right now, yes. Yeah, that still would not have a position of certified staff, would not have a position at the end of the day. So
And for the non-certified,
non-certified, there wouldn't be a position. I think it was the elementary library, since there wouldn't be a position in that realm, for her. We would try and find something else, para position or some other area to offer her a position.
sort of,
Yeah.
again, looking comparatively with the town, we were down 8.5 positions and for
Well, people that, the one of job positions are different than people not having a job, but two different things.
which is really what we did too, eliminated those positions. And I think I just want to point that out too, because so many people talking tonight, made it sound like, it was going to be wiping out UP classes, it was going to be wiping out different, courses and everything else. Can you address what the impact really would be on whether it's clubs, whether sports, it's classes?
Well, with the 1.35, where it's at, it's some of those would be impacted. Yes, there's an example I think given tonight of a English teacher that would be moved down to the middle school. She teaches one of the only ECE courses at the high school. That course would be eliminated because nobody else could fill that role.
Sorry, DC.
EC, a college credit course. So just nobody else could fill that specific English course because she's certified to be able to teach that role. So but again, that's right now. That could, again, it could change. It's just that shell game of moving around. Now, by restoring money as well, we're going to go back and try and establish what the least impact is on the courses and the classes that that are being offered, and obviously staffing positions. In hopes too that things will continue to shift and move, like we just had that maternity leave individual that say she's not coming back. That's through attrition now. We can eliminate a position and nobody loses their job. And that does sometimes happen. Expect that. So I'm struggling with answering that, Denise, because there's, I can't specifically say this AP course is going to be impacted or this isn't going to be impacted, because I could say it today and it could change tomorrow or next week, sort of thing. So, but just I think in general, there is an impact as that ECE course, college experience courses would be impacted as of right now.
Then could you also? The motion was 675. If we,
Someone second that, by the way, I just.
Yes.
You, Rich? Okay, perfect, sorry.
Sure,
I'm writing down in case.
if we adjusted cash, capital, what would it look like if we were to, so we had proposed of 1,1,322,851. We move that to just 1,000,000
300,000, 22.
322,851.
You work on the projects.
Point of order. The motion on the table isn't dealing with other adjustments to the
Right.
budget at this point.
And I would not be including that in the motion, but in order for me to kind of really evaluate the 675, I just wanted to see whether, something else that we could move forward would do. So it's just for information and would not be.
I thought that would just, for after this motion was voted. That's okay.
I just find that would help me to
Okay.
evaluate it, that's all.
Okay.
There was another good suggestion, I thought, from the crowd tonight about, that I would like to expand upon, and that was that maybe, in the future, if it's possible, we should visit school and learn more about classrooms directly from the students and teachers and staff. I would advocate us doing that. I would also advocate maybe, people in the school visiting some of the parts of the town. Similarly, they can learn. Things are having to get cut into. That's what it is, Sam. Great.
And I really appreciated the tour of the high school, because that was very eye-opening. And the needs in the auditorium, as well as like the gym and what have you, are definitely something that one resident had said to me, boy, if we only had all of this in the auditorium, maybe we could actually turn that into a revenue producing. Is there some way we could make that an event facility that could be rented out? So these are all good ideas. We're thinking about the same thing with one of the historic homes. If we renovate that, could you then also turn it into revenue producing? So all stuff right.
All right, 998.
Just can't sit.
Almost there, you have 10 seconds.
Does anyone else have any further comments on motion?
Well, I have another proposal, I know. Yeah, I had another proposal,
Okay, but then we.
I know,
324.
I'm sorry, I thought that one was gonna be an easy one.
A little bit of, I have to shuffle the projects out of debt and out of cash into debt, and then work on the other spreadsheet, so it just takes a second. So if we reduce $324,000 of cash capital, move it into debt. Just paying at the debt, so that'll make our cash capital $998,851. The impact on the budget drops it to 28.02 mils, 1.67%, 1.67 mils, 6.34% increase. Who's gonna back that out?
Okay, any further discussion on the motion to reduce the
Restore 675,000 into the 1.5 that we cut.
no further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? So was that 4? I didn't quite, I couldn't look in both directions.
Yeah, I was an aye.
It's 4-2.
So that motion carries. Anyone else that has any other motion that they would like to make?
I'd like to make a motion to reduce the $1.5 million down to 1 million. Reducing the 1.5 by 500,000, 1 million, which would be about 5%. Because the $1.5 million reduction, that's 4.22%. I'd like to stay around 5%. Which means instead of having 4 million plus would be an increase of 3 million. On the overhead budget.
Okay, so
So it's a million reduction instead of 1.5, reduction of 1 million.
That's increasing 175 from where we just voted. $175,000 cut to the what was just a motion.
You're adding an additional 175, restoring. We're going the opposite direction.
Reducing the 1.5 by 500,000. Which brings down the $1.5 million to $1 million increase over.
Actually, we just brought the 1.5 million down. maybe
Down
add-
further.
That I'm talking all inclusive of the insurance.
So I'm sorry, John, I'm just not, so you're saying instead of restoring 675, restore 500,000? Is that right?
No,
No. Okay.
reducing by 500,000. So instead of
Oh, we just
reducing by
reduced it
$1.5 million. It's a note, it down to 1 million. So that's 4 million, the original $4 million increase is now a $3 million increase.
But I think we have to look at the 675 that just got approved.
So I have the number. So the initial 675, your motion, if you want it to be the $1 million cut,
Yeah.
would be a motion to cut the Board of Ed budget by 175,000. Where we currently are, because we just approved the 675, which makes the cut 825. If you want the cut to be $1 million, you have to add 175 to the cut. So your motion would be to reduce the Board of Ed budget by 175,000. And that would bring it to $1 million cut. Is that what you're getting? $1 million cut, right? Okay, I got you.
Does that mean that we are restoring less?
Cut. You're restoring part of the cut. So your 675 would actually be 500 net between the two of you.
I'll second it. We can, open it up for comment. I guess the question is. Does anyone who had voted on the 675, you be willing to increase that by another 175?
Being obtuse, but can you just?
Yes, you're reducing the 675 to 500. You have a difference of 175. So,
Right.
so your motion
Is less money for. the
is
Board of
to
Ed.
decrease the 675 credit back down to 500,000.
We are removing 175 of what we just restored.
Or doing 175 of what you just restored.
Thank you.
It's the new math.
Happy where we are right now.
Yeah. See if you get a second.
I did second.
Oh,
it.
you second it?
Yes.
Okay. Now that we're clear what the numbers really mean.
Call the question.
Okay. All those in favor of the further reduction, another 175,000, signify by saying aye.
Right.
Aye. Any opposed?
Okay.
So that motion fails 4-2.
We did get updated state figures for 2 grants. If we want to make changes to those, it does help us out by $50,000.
I'll take it.
Okay, so for pilot, we initially budgeted $749,591. Committee at the State House has so far approved. Crap, I didn't write down the total. They increased us by 48,996. Let me make it. 798,587 is our new total. Still $3 million short, by the way. Progress.
I'll make a motion to adjust the revenue for the pilot grant from the 749,591 up to 798,587.
Okay.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? No, it's pilot. And it said there was another update.
Okay, yes, so we just did the pilot one. The next one is Town Aid Road. It's going to affect revenues and expenditures, so it's a wash. But we've currently budgeted $316,487. The state approved an additional, I think it was either $40 or $80 million for Town Aid Road across the state of Connecticut. Our cut is an additional $105,390. This does not offset taxes because we have to increase revenue and expenditures by this amount. So it's a wash, but to the town, we're getting $105,000 from the State House.
Make a motion to increase the TAR grant by 100,000. Also. Just
105,390.
105. And adjust the related expenses. Been made and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed. Abstentions, no, that motion carries 600. Right, I'm going to make a motion to reduce the cash capital.
324 even. Yeah.
324 even. Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion on that?
Yes, I'd like to say I'm supportive of this. I had brought it up at an earlier Board of Finance meeting. And I'm glad that it's being brought up again today.
Anybody speak to the impact on bond rating?
I don't think it's a specific. I haven't seen it come up specifically in any of the discussions. Have you, Kevin?
There's usually a lot to discuss in these S&P rating calls. The amount of debt we have has not alarmed anybody, because I think there's other things that kind of keep them up at night. But the bigger thing is so we're really bonding for everyday expenses. And now this kind of exacerbates that a little further. So I mean, this year we're gonna bond $7 million. But that's really just comprised of roads, a couple of vehicles, things like that. When we have to go bond major renovations for a school, that's gonna be what really, pushes the debt service.
This
Another level.
4,000, does it cross the line into having to do it for the school?
I don't think it's just that 324,000. I think it's more of a discipline across the capital projects, because it's not just this year, it's, every year the debt is just kind of snowballing on us right now. So there's something to keep an eye on, but
And so sort of related, rating agencies have been more concerned about the town's inability to produce an audit on time. We haven't done that in 11 years.
we're up to 13. So this current year, we're going to pay off $4.5 million of principal. We're going to add 6.8 million. Right? So next year, that continues. We're adding every year $2 million, 10 years, $20 million of debt service. Right, so I think that kind of happened the last decade or two.
I was making that point about not getting an audit done on time. Mainly, Kevin has done a great job trying to get us back on track, but to me, it shows that our finance department has been understaffed for a very long time. And so, these are some of the things that we really had to focus on at the town side.
You compare our debt to other towns around the area. And I've been reading a little bit about what they're doing with budgets. I'm wondering how we compare.
There is a study that I have, and I would say we're around like 140 net per capital, so
In the whole
Of
state
the-
of Connecticut.
of 106. So it's really an area of that we lag behind most of the town.
We have a higher
We have
debt.
more debt than probably
Level two.
3/4.
So by taking away this 324,
Doesn't help us.
we don't help our cause.
We're still up, it's a 10% increase to cash capital year over year. So that's, it's not like we're hurting, we're still helping, it's still going in the right direction, just not as drastic, Some of us like to see.
Like the placeholder with the coastal resilience.
Correct, yeah.
That went up in
Not quite as
budget,
ambitious
but as we had hoped it would be. At least it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, we're adding 100,000. That's your budget 900, this is 998. So, every 100,000 helps.
Already called it, wasn't
I don't remember what the question, do we have a question on the table right now?
Yeah, it was.
The 324, okay. So she's been made and seconded. All those in favor of reducing the cash capital was increased by 324,000. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion.
You seconded that.
Thank you, Scott.
And what was the number again?
998, 851, 324.
324, not yet, okay.
Right, does anyone have any other adjustments to the budget that they would like to propose?
I would like to propose. $350,000 on the fund balance to be used. That are increased in the budget.
Wait a second.
Okay, I figured as much. And then just a question regarding the statement that was on the slide about maintain undesignated fund balance to target of 17% of the general fund. I thought our wording was strive towards that.
I think when we were writing the investment policy, or the fund balance policy, we wanted to not put ourselves in the position of always, like with every budget, trying to adjust by $1,000 here or there. So we settled on 17% is where we want to be. But if there's, if we go to 17.25, we don't want to have to take action, or if we go to 16.9, we don't want to have to take action, but we know where we're targeting. By making it a percentage as opposed to a dollar amount, as the overall budget changes, then it won't. Concert.
One other item. Earlier in our budget meetings, I brought up about Niantic Main Street and the amount of ARPA funding that they had received. And the goals of some of that ARPA funding for work in the Flanders section of town. Kevin was gonna get a response from Niantic Main Street, but I never think that we heard anything. And I know it's a very small amount, but I would like to remove the 2,500 going to Niantic Main Street because of not following through on work in Flanders.
I'll second that. I think we did get an email from Niantic Main Street people that basically said, no, they hadn't done anything in Flanders, so it has. Is that all that?
I don't recall seeing that.
Remove $2,500, do they go to zero?
Yeah, they would go to zero.
I think it might actually be negative 250 real quick, because I think it's only 2250.
And everything by 10%.
Okay, so 2250.
I think it's 22.
I amend my motion to 22.
The amended motion.
Okay.
I didn't think 250, then we won't have any contribution from us to be able to work on Niantic Main Street at all.
I guess I would, look to Dan, are you, in regard to Main Street funding? Have other sources of funding besides the town donation?
Yeah, I really, I don't know. I don't know what there's what other sources of funding. I'd have to ask them.
So I apologize for laboring this. They're Niantic Main Street. All they do is help to beautify Niantic Main Street, correct?
And do all the signage for the farmers market.
They do the buoy thing on the
They-
green there and
A lot of the events downtown.
We're not contributing anything and we don't know if they have other sources of funding.
that's right.
I think given that we don't have all the other information, I would probably not submit. Right. So I think.
I could be wrong, I think they do have other sources of revenue.
I think they do too. What I just said is, given the lack of our information. And, you know, this was in the hands of the board of selectmen who reviewed everything. I think it's a very good point, which that we were giving ARPA money, based on they're doing something in Flanders and they didn't. And that's an issue, and maybe it's something that the board of selectmen can take up with them and they can see if they can't rectify that. So I'm gonna call the vote. All those in favor? Niantic Main Street. Signify by saying aye. Opposed? So the motion doesn't carry. Do I have any others? Okay, so, that being said, I think any adjustments, let you know something else, any last minute money pouring in?
Towel has been pretty well run.
So, Evan, what's the final,
Our final budget,
overall?
96,657,786. Read that again, 96,657,786.
What kind of no increases that?
So real quick, that is a $6,064,792 increase. The mills, it is going up 1.66 mils. The new mill rate would be 28.01. With a 6.3%. The collected taxes is going up 7.9%. But because the grand list has grown, because we increased the collection rate, have offset about 1.6%.
Any new forecast on collection rate?
99 is looking pretty good.
9 point.
Gotta have a little cushion somewhere. I feel like $5 a cushion right there.
Then. Do I have a motion to adopt the budget? To the numbers that Kevin just all elucidated, bringing the mill rate to 28.01, a 1.66% increase, change of 6.30 previous year.
So
So,
second,
That's the town meeting.
we will do. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 600. Then, so we are also forwarding this to the town meeting on May 22nd. Next on the agenda is discussion and possible action on the capital improvement plan. So after 8 zillion capital improvement plan meetings, I now have 8,000 documents, and I'm not sure which one is the most updated. So Kevin, can you just give me your numbers on?
So the numbers haven't changed. So total capital projects, $7,529,000. Okay, so bonded,
Annual.
yes, that's for the annual. So that didn't change. We just shuffled cash capital versus debt. So we're bonding 6,824,000. So you wanna, I think, what do we approve the annual and then the 10-year? What do you need anything else for the capital current year?
No.
Okay,
So I'll make a motion to approve that. Capital improvement plan is just related, like.
Okay.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 600. And then, for the 10-year capital improvement plan. This is a total of $109,137,065. As was in our deck from 2026 to 2035. We have a motion to approve the 10-year CIP.
Motion to approve.
Any discussion?
So I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not sure I'm looking at the right numbers. But I think that like in 2028, there was a really big jump up of 20.
Right, so in the discussion of the new senior center, library, youth center. So there had been originally in the public works current year some 19 million, because it was going to end up in the building, but they were looking to approve it for this year. But after discussions, we said, A, this is something that needs to go to referendum. And then B, we had some discussions with the state, and there was opportunity to see if we can get some state funding. In order to get the state funding, you've got to show that this is a real possibility. So if it's not in CIP, then, then clearly the state looks at us and says, well, they're not really serious about this. So if in fact that funding does not materialize, then that will be a discussion for the next CIP.
That explanation. So it sounds like while we are saying that this is our goal, we're not committed to it. We could actually take it out if we can't find funding for it.
We have applied to the state for that specific project to fund the entire thing with bond money from the state of Connecticut. And so if that gets approved, any dollar gets approved, that's savings. That's just a list of the capital projects from the town. That's not indicative of the bonding that we'll have to do for those projects. The 109 million, one of the projects in 2020 is the sidewalk construction from Society Road to East Patagonia. That'll be funded largely from the state of Connecticut, but we still have to have it on this listing to show that it's being planned.
See the distinction.
All right. Further discussion. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of approving the 10-year capital improvement plan signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 0-0. This item on the agenda is board comments. No comment?
I'll be very brief. I think we worked very cohesively as a board. We agreed. I like the reaching out to department heads for their suggestions for cuts. And I think it's a painful process. It's a necessary one, but I think we do it as efficiently as possible. And everybody's work on it.
I also want to thank the board members who work really hard, in particular Denise. I know there's a lot of legwork you do as chair that maybe goes unnoticed or unseen. So I want to thank you for that, and also presenting and leading tonight. And then I wanted to thank all the educators, students, families that came out tonight to speak to us. In particular, students. It's just so impressive to see young people getting up and advocating for their community and school. So thank you.
Well, can I just echo that? As I said before, I was compelled by a lot of the arguments that were made by the whole education community, and I know that it's your job as their superintendent to advocate for the budget that you guys all put together, and also to rally the troops. It feels like you did so in a way that I thought was civil and an educational opportunity, certainly for me. Tonight, well, there was definitely a few sharp comments that got made that, of course, can happen. I just want to applaud you for managing that in the way you did. Excellent.
And thanks to all of you. I appreciate your work, for sure.
Yep, so as chair, I guess I will close out and just say, it has been tough. It's a tough thing to do recommend cuts, but I think that we really work hard at trying to mitigate it, while also making sure we value the students and their parents' desire. So thank you to all our board members. Thank you, Dan, Kevin, Jeff, Mariana, and all. I appreciate all the hard work that it does. And Enjoy spring. Motion to adjourn has been made. Second, all those in favor? Aye.
So much for another day.
For all your years of service. I'm always used to being.